All right, so welcome to Sales Academy. So today we're going to talk about working through the 6-step process, and really we're going to hone in on that second step and talk about how to go through and get more leads of everything and what those progressions look like. So let's start with what are the 6 steps? Let's briefly run through those 6 steps, what they are and what they mean. So what's step 1 in the process? Approach. Okay, what's that mean? Right, have you heard, right? We would lead with have you heard, you lead with the flyer, right? And the whole purpose is to do what? Get their attention, right? Get them to look up and acknowledge that you exist, right? What's step 2? Engage, okay. So step 1 is have you heard, right? How do we get to step 2? How do we get to engagement? What do we ask? How old, right? So how old is the transition question to engagement? Why is that the transition question to engagement? What makes that part of engagement?
Focusing on them.
It's a question, and it's focused on them about their AC. So we went from this, hey, how's it going? Right, as the carny. Hey, how's it going? Have you heard about the specials? Right, trying to get everybody's attention. To once I've got your attention, well, let me ask you, how old is your system in your house? Now I'm slowing down, right? And now it's a one-on-one conversation, right? Now I care about you and your system in your house, right? So that's what we're doing there. And this is what we're going to go into more detail, right? So how old is how we get into it. Now what do we ask once we get into it, and how do we transition from AOR to tune-up to EAS to figure out what is the right bucket for the customer to be in, right? The cool thing about what we do, I would hate to be a bathroom remodel lead generator. How many people need a bathroom remodel? None. Right? Nobody, right? So you're literally walking around trying to convince people of things they don't need, right? They might want to have one, but they don't need it. How many people need a heating tune-up this time of year? Everybody that owns a home, right? Not doing a heater tune-up would be like not changing the oil in your car. You'd be dumb. Right, it's October, going into November, it's time to get that done, right? If you have a gas system, it could literally kill you or cause your house to blow up. Right? It's really dumb not to get it done if you have a gas system. How many people need a new system? A portion, right? So every homeowner you talk to has to have a tune-up, whether it's a 5-year-old system or a 50-year-old system, right? A third of the people you talk to that are homeowners need a new system. What do the other 2/3 probably need that they haven't done? An attic evaluation, right? They probably have an older home with an inefficient attic, or an older home where the insulation's all settled in and they're not getting the efficiencies they need, right? So what that means is, if you're approaching the 20 to 25 people, let's say 25, right? Well, actually, let's use 20 because it's easier math. If you approach 20 people an hour like you're supposed to, how many are going to be homeowners? On average, how many? 10, so you're saying half. Anybody else? 10 and 12, okay. On average, it's about 70 to 75%. So that's about 15, right? If you're in a store that's a heavy apartment area, it might be closer to 10 to 12, but for the most part, when you paint the big picture of any city, it's about 75%. So that's 15 people, right? If you're in a heavier apartment area, we'll go ahead and approach 25 people and you'll find 15 homeowners, right? So of 15 homeowners, every hour, right? How many lead chances do you have in those? Well, you know of 5 of them need an AOR, they need an EAS, and they need a tune-up, right? 5 of them just need a tune-up and EAS, and 5 of them probably only qualify for just a tune-up, right? So think about it. The challenge that I challenge everybody all the time, how can you go out and write 1 lead every hour that you work? 1 lead every hour. Simply convert 1 out of those 15 people into a lead. I don't care what type it is, just get a lead out of 15 people that all need what you're selling, right? When you think about it that way, how can that be hard, right? Right now, we're at about 4 hours a lead, right? The minimum expectation is 2, right? So that's what we're here to talk about, is how do we bridge that gap and go from 4 hours to get a lead to at least get 1 every 2 hours, right? So if we're getting 1 every 2 hours, how many potential customers do we have in that math? So if you're approaching 20 people, 15 of them are homeowners every hour, times 2 hours, you have 30 homeowners to get one lead. And what I'm challenging everybody on, right, not just this room, but across the whole division, is how do we convert one lead out of every 30 homeowners? That's all I'm asking. And when we do that, I promise you, you will double your income. Matter of fact, we've got a contest that we'll be rolling out later today. You'll triple your income in the next 3 weeks if you just do this. And if you do 1 in 15, and if you're a rock star, you'll quadruple your income in the next 3 weeks. So Sebby will tell you about that at the meeting today, but that's the seed I want to plant. This is about how do you double or triple your income and your commission, and hopefully that's the reason everybody's working here, right? If you're working here for the hourly wage, you're not going to be happy in the long run, and we're not going to be happy with you, right? This is about how do you take your hourly wage and double it every week, right? And that's what we want to make sure and help you be able to do, right? So let's come back to this. So we talked about the engagement. We're going to talk to 20 people an hour. 15 of them are homeowners, right? What's the third step once we've talked to them and asked them all the right questions and qualified them? What's the next thing we're going to do? Close, right? Step 3 is close. What does that mean? Set the appointment. It's the reason you make commission. It's the reason this isn't a minimum wage job, right? If I could just pay somebody to go in and pass out flyers and get leads, we'd pay $8 an hour and we'd be loving life, right? Go out and pass out flyers and get leads. Nope, this is sales, right? This is where you put your salesman or saleswoman hat on, and this is how we win, right? Do we always get the lead right when we close the first time? No, right? What happens? Rebuttals or objections, right? So we get some objections, right? What do we do with those objections? We overcome them, right? We handle them, and then what do we do? Step 5. We close again, right? So the key, remember, right, and we're not going to spend a lot of time today on this part, but for every objection you get, what should you always do? Get the objection, handle the objection, close again, right? Objection, handle, close. Objection, handle, close. And remember, how many times may this go back and forth? Right? As many times as necessary, right? Now, here's the key to remember, right? To self-assess yourself. If you're getting 17 objections here, right, and you're trying to close and you know they need it and you're getting all kinds of objections, what does that tell you you've done? Anybody know? You never found the pain. You rushed through the engagement and you started trying to close before the customer was ready to be closed, right? So if you're having to have a Royal Rumble with Mike Tyson down here in the objections and the closing segment, then you haven't spent enough time up here, right? And if you get this first close real easy, then that means you spent enough time or maybe even too much time up here in the engagement, right? Because this is where the customer buys and you go from a salesperson to a service person, right? And you're consulting, right? You become a consultant instead of a salesperson. And then what's the last step? Button up. What does that mean?
Know everything that we just walking through and let them know what to expect.
That's right, right? We're going to confirm and validate everything we just set up, make sure we have all the right information, make sure the customer knows why we're coming and what to expect when we come out there, right? I've said for years, this is the most important step, right? And what I mean by that is, you've done all this hard work, you've got the lead, you closed the deal, you took the time to wrote it up, you typed it into the system, but if you didn't tell the customer they were going to get a phone call from the office, and then they get the phone call from the office and they freak out and say, I'll just cancel it, well, that doesn't do any good, right? Because you didn't make any money, right? This is the button up is how you make money, right? That's how you make sure your lead runs, because nobody makes money around here until what? Until it runs, right? Until we get in the house, right? You can write 50 leads, and if we don't get in the house on any of them, guess what? That doesn't do any good, right? If you write 10 leads and we get in the house on all 10 of them, guess what you're going to do? You're going to make money, right? So, again, for today's exercise, we're going to spend our time talking about the engagement, right? So, let's come back to it for a second. We already talked. The first question in engagement's what? How old, right? How old what? How old is your heating and cooling system? So again, we're transitioning into winter and fall. So make sure, we've been saying AC system, we need to add the word heating. So if you haven't put the word heating in front of it yet, let's do that, right? How old is your heating and cooling system in your home, right? That's important. And what are we listening for? 10?
More than 10.
Greater than 10 or what?
Yeah.
Or less than 10, right? Pretty simple. Why? Why does that matter to us?
What bucket?
What bucket you're going to put them in, right? What is the customer that you're right? We know you're talking to 1 in 15, right? What bucket do they need to go into, right? So let's start here. Let's start with over 10, right? Let's assume I've got a 12-year-old system, right? I've approached a customer and they have a 12-year-old system. What am I going to ask next? How am I going to further engage or further progress this lead to a yes?
Wow, that's old. How's it running?
Wow, that's old, right? We're going to use that wow statement, right? What's that wow statement do for us? It connects with the customer. What does it do for? What else does it do for us?
Doesn't sound like you're just asking questions.
Okay, right. What else? What are we trying to learn from the customer?
Trying to learn his pain.
Learn his pain. We're also trying to really discern, does the customer even know it's old? Right? If, like, in my house, I bought it new 12 years ago, right? Until I started working for an air conditioning company, I had no idea heating and air conditioning system only lasted 10 to 15 years, right? I would have thought that that thing was supposed to last forever, and I have no idea, right? So if I approach this customer and he has a 12-year-old system, wow, that thing's old, huh? What potential response am I going to get? It's only 3. They may say it a million different ways, but there's only 3 responses. What are those 3 responses?
I didn't know that was what.
It's old? What are you talking about, right? I call it Mr. Clueless, right? They don't have a clue, they have an old system. So what do you got to do there? You got to slow down and educate a little bit before we move forward. What's the next response you might get? So we got Mr. Clueless.
Yes.
Yes, I know it's old. Yeah, I know it's old. We've thought about it, right? You know, so I consider that, you know, Mr. or Mrs. Complacent, right? They know it's old. They haven't done anything yet, but they really haven't got around to fixing it either, right? And what's the third customer you might get?
The one that says they're going to run it to their room.
Yeah.
Right? Mr. Jinx, right? Don't jinx it. I'm running that thing into the ground, right? I'm running it until it breaks, baby, right? Now think about how powerful that is. All we said was, wow, that thing's old, huh? And what did we just find out? We found out what kind of customer we're dealing with. Do we have a Mr. Jinx it that we're going to have to battle, right? We're going to have to do a lot of value building to create that sense of urgency to do something now? Or do we have Mr. or Mrs. Clueless who, until they met you, had no idea they were probably getting screwed and had some pains in their home from their EC system that they had no idea about, right? And how you go about that is, it's not different, but it's just slightly different, right? You're gonna go around the back street on one way and around the front street to get to the other, right? So after we find this out, where do we go next? What's the next thing to identify the pain, right? Somebody said that earlier. To get a lead, right, we have to have a system old enough and we have to have the pain, right? And what is the pain? Right? How's it running? Right? So let's start there, right? So reliability. So, oh wow, you got a 12-year-old system, you had no idea it was even old, right? Well, the systems are only designed to last 10 to 15 years, so you're kind of right in the middle. So it's probably about time for you to have to replace it. Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, 2 things happen when those systems get old. They start costing you more to maintain and keep them running, and then also your energy bills to keep them operating start going up. Let me ask you, how's that system running for you? Have you had to put any money in it during your last annual maintenance? Did you have to put any repair money into it, right? Basically, reliability. Are there any reliability concerns that exist today? Or maybe this summer you had to put some money in it just to put a Band-Aid on it and keep it going, right? What would a new system do for you? Allow you to not have to do that in the future, right? If we get a yes, there's a major reliability issue, what are we going to then do? Let's say yes, yeah, the system's making a ton of noise and I had to put a $800 capacitor in it this summer, right? What would you do now as a sales rep in the store?
That's crazy.
Okay, so you would keep going?
Yeah, it sounds like you're perfect kind of guy that needs to get a free estimate.
Old enough, find the pain equals a lead, right? So as soon as you find that pain, it's time to close.
Yeah.
Now, if that reliability pain was a $50 repair, that's probably not enough pain. We got to keep digging a little bit. But if it was a $1,000 repair, that potentially cost that family their family vacation. They may not have got to go to Galveston this summer because they had to use their vacation fund to cover the repair on the air conditioning, right? So if you get a yes, we're going to close for the estimate, right? Because it's old enough and I have a pain, right? If you get a no, what are we going to do? Keep going, right? Keep going to what? HEB? What's that? We're gonna go to the grocery store? What is HEB? Electricity bill, right? So see if they have that high energy bill, right? Hopefully you guys, we're gonna spend time here on this, but there's other segments out there, right, where we teach you the rule of 10. Does everybody in this classroom know the rule of 10? Right? You know the rule of 10? Okay, we'll work on it after class. Chris, let's make sure he doesn't leave until we work on that. So we're going to apply the rule of 10, right, and help the customer identify if they do or if they don't have high energy bills, right? And if they have high energy bills, what do we get? We get a yes, they have a pain. What do we do if we get a yes, they have a pain? We close, right? Bam!